And welcome back to another episode of the Geek Centurions. It's me, your boy Eli.
It's me. Yeah, it's Joe.
Joe. So, I really kind of didn't want to do this. I was hoping it'd take a little longer before we do an episode like this. Most because we just had to talk about this a week or two ago.
Yeah.
I had this talk with Daniel, and now I'm having this talk with you. Sony is feeling like spending some money.
Yeah, because I think the big news of this week was Sony buying Bungie for about what $3 billion.
It was around that much money, yes. Making sure I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's so that this is gonna lead us into this episode. It's like, what does this mean? What does could mean more for Sony, and just like what does it mean for gaming? So obviously, let's just start with the ideas. Like, what does this mean for Sony? In relationship with Bungie. So obviously, Bungie was the guys who made Halo and a lot of other stuff, but the mostly kind of known at the moment is for Halo and now Destiny, which was a again that was accessible to like all platforms. But when Bungie was making Destiny at first, they were partnered with Activision,
Mm-hmm.
and with that partnership, they essentially helped distribute all that good stuff. But also, Activision had a kind of sort of a deal with Sony, so they get some extra stuff in the way that was kind of that left everybody else kind of like high and dry.
Yeah, it was a very similar marketing strategy they would do for uh, Call of Duty at the time. Because since the PlayStation had sort of that bigger fan install. Because I think it started back with the Xbox, where like Call of Duty on Xbox would get exclusive content like maps earlier or stuff like that, and that transitioned to Call of Duty games on PlayStation when PlayStation 4 became big, and that was something similar that Activision had a Bungie do for Destiny's 1 and 2, that there would be an exclusive weapons. They would have exclusive weapons. Or like quests and stuff to get exclusive like exotic items. And granted, I think some of them weren't like too like game breaking on the terms of like, oh, you had to have this weapon, but it still was very much like, just like a come on. I mean, why can't you know?
You just release that later for everybody else.
Yeah, and I mean eventually like, and when Destiny and Activision went their own separate ways, Bungie was like, hey, all right, we're not gonna do any of that stuff anymore, especially for Destiny 2. All that exclusive PlayStation content came to all the other systems, including PC, because I believe Destiny 2 is when they first started doing PC. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, so to see Bungie being bought by Sony, yeah, it does sort of bring a lot of the questions of, hey, are you guys gonna do that Sony gets exclusive content again thing? PlayStation gets exclusive content again, because we all agree that was bad and we didn't like it. So, are you gonna do that?
I think the consensus. I think someone from Bungie, clearly stated that no, we're still gonna do multiplat. It's not gonna change it. From my understanding, they're just essentially gonna use Sony as like a bedrock for money to promote and to like do a lot of the stuff that Bungie wants to do with Destiny that they probably don't have the means to it right now.
I mean, I can understand that. I mean, obviously Bungie. I mean, yeah, Destiny. While it's still a pretty big game, probably. I do remember they did have to get like funding from like Tencent, Chinese
Yeah.
gaming company at one point. They invested some money into Bungie, so yeah, I can see this being more sort of like a we just want like some more security in terms of our money stuff. And I mean, yeah, and it has come out. I think that some Bungie devs are like, no, we're not gonna do anything exclusive. We still own Destiny and the brand. Like, we're not gonna do anything super exclusive like that. Especially because it would be sort of antithetical to how Bungie has been treating Destiny 2 as of late. Because after the split with Activision, Destiny started to implement stuff like cross save, where you could, hey, if you had friends, you were playing Destiny on, say, your Xbox or whatever, and all your friends got Destiny on PlayStation. Guess what? You can just get a PlayStation, get a copy of Destiny 2, and you can just transfer your save data there and go back and forth if you want to, and including PC as well. Heck, because I think Destiny 2, you had to get it through the Blizzard's web client thing, where you download Overwatch and all the other stuff.
What is it? What's it called? Because I know Epic,
Battle.net. I think.
Battle.net, yeah.
Battle.net, I think it was called. I think they call it something different, but I think at the time it was called Battle.net. And now it's like, hey, now you can just download it on Steam. And I mean, they even, I believe they do have a bit of a free to play option as well now, and I don't know if they've done it yet, because I do remember they were like, we want to get crossplay as a thing. We want to try to get crossplay out there, because at the end of the day, it's very much Bungie sort of like, we want to bring everybody together. No more like exclusive content. We want to get everyone equal and together. I mean, heck, crossplay probably helps out because Destiny's on Stadia, and who the hell's playing it on Stadia, right?
Right.
You got to get those Stadia players to hang out with everybody else. So yeah, it does seem nice that.
I mean, I've said it before. I would love more crossplay games. They're so much fun.
I agree too. I know one of my friends has gotten back into Destiny 2, and he really likes it. And I'm like, hey, I still have Destiny 2, and like all their updates are starting. I could probably get a lot of the updates and stuff through Game Pass and stuff. That'd be nice to play, but at the time, I'm not sure if they've implemented crossplay yet. And if they do, that means, hey,
you know who you're about to hit up.
Yeah, me and my friends can play Destiny, because I know we all have separate consoles, and one dude really loves playing on PC. And since there is a free-to-play option for Destiny now, we can all just hang out. That'd be really cool. I feel the same way, because like a lot of people shitted on Destiny 1 and 2 for certain stuff that I do agree needs to be shit on. But like, the game is so much fun. Yeah, the core gameplay of Destiny has always been like really good. Like Bungie, definitely understands how to make a first-person shooter and make it fun, and understands the qualities of it. But but Destiny has always had those problems of just like, does it want to be an MMO? Does it want to be just a first-person single-player experience? Is the grind worth it?
Well, not even now in Destiny 2, and they got rid of it. They had or they kind of still do. They have the whole microtransactions.
I mean, they definitely have relied a bit on it now, especially since the split with Activision. But obviously, I'm pretty sure. I believe, unless it's like major expansions, most content is free, and I believe a lot of the microtransaction stuff is just purely cosmetic. Like dance emotes and all that stuff. And I think the only issue was that like they were selling colors, I believe, at the time when Destiny 2 came out, which is, I think, it's kind of a similar problem that Halo Infinite is kind of going with, where like, instead of just having the option to just choose a color,
you get shades.
Yeah, and
Granted, some of those shades are pretty nice.
Yeah, and it's just that some people are just like, well, I don't want to pay $10 for that.
Yeah, I don't want to do it.
I would pay maybe $1 or $2, but $10, no. And that was a similar thing with Destiny 2 at launch. I think they've fixed most of that microtransaction stuff now, but both games have had issues with a lot of things. But I think, they sort of.
Speaking of Microsoft, you were telling me how weird it was that they're getting back with such a big company, because the reason they left Microsoft is because like they wanted to do their own stuff.
Yeah. When you look at the history of Bungie, start off as a small indie developer, they get some big hits, and they were gonna make Halo on Mac, and then Microsoft came.
That would have been a weird history.
Yeah, it had been very bizarre.
Timeline.
Timeline.
Timeline was weird.
Yeah, and Microsoft came to Bungie to like, hey, we want to get Halo on Xbox, and they sort of worked together to do that. And after like a couple of years, Bungie was like, we kind of like don't feel like making Halo games anymore.
Okay, just make 2 more and you're out. That
Yeah,
was literally the deal, and those 2 games were ODST and Reach.
yeah, and they're both good experiences. And afterwards, they mutually agreed to like separate. I mean, granted, Microsoft didn't own Bungie. It was more like
A partnership.
yeah, like a I guess the closest thing you would get with it would be like a second party,
Yeah.
like because usually when we see game companies and their relationship with various developers, it's usually either first party, which is like directly owned by that console, or like how 343 is a first party for Microsoft and Xbox. Naughty Dog is a first party for PlayStation, and obviously Nintendo has a bunch of other like first party. They make their own first party games, right?
Yeah.
And then a second party is like Bungie and Xbox's relationship. They don't own Xbox. Microsoft doesn't own Bungie, but they work together to make exclusive content.
I'll give you another one. Bandai Namco. Or is that more third party?
That's more third party because Bandai Namco just works with everybody. They have their own like working relationship because at the time of Bungie making Halo, they didn't make any other games besides Halo.
So would Atlas be considered one then? No, right?
Which Atlas?
Atlas, Persona.
Oh,
Because don't they also make the Catherine game? I need Daniel for this one.
yeah, they made Catherine. They made Persona and
Shin
Shin
Megami
Megami Tensei.
Tensei.
I mean, kind of, but not really, because Persona games are strictly on PlayStation, except for like the spin-offs, which you can be on like Nintendo consoles, and Shin Megami Tensei is exclusive to Nintendo. And then they have other titles like Catherine, which was on like everything. So I think another example of a second party like relationship would be Monolith Soft, the guys that make the Xenoblade games, because they aren't owned by Nintendo.
But they do make games for Nintendo.
They make mostly games for Nintendo. And Game Freak would probably be another one. The guys that make the Pokemon games, because like technically Nintendo doesn't own like the Game Freak. They work together. And Game Freak has made at least some games that are like not on Nintendo. I think
Pokemon Go?
No, not they don't make Pokemon Go. But yeah, it was Niantic or whatever the fuck it's called. But yeah, point is, that's sort of the thing. And obviously, third party developers are like, they work with everybody, and they'll have like exclusive games or whatever sometimes.
Yeah.
With the company, but it's like they work with everybody, and but yeah, it is weird that Bungie has had this history of basically wanting to be independent and just getting saddled with various partnerships with various other bigger companies, right? Making Halo with Xbox, and then once they decided we want to make our own thing, and they joined up with Activision, and obviously that relationship, was kind of
toxic.
Yeah, a bit. I mean, who knows how bad it was, but obviously by the end of it, because I think Activision really wanted to make Destiny like a huge franchise on the scale of Call of Duty. I mean, that sort of explains why like we had Destiny, and it had an expansion like every other year, and then we got Destiny 2, and it had a big expansion, and it was really lining up to like see like, okay, maybe we're gonna get a Destiny 3 and then a huge expansion, and then Bungie and Activision broke off their partnership, and Bungie was like, no, we're focusing on just Destiny 2. No more sequels or anything. Just Destiny 2. So
for now.
I mean, for now, but I mean, it definitely seems, in my opinion, it seems like Bungie really wants to just build off of Destiny 2 and not make a sequel, because while the transition was definitely probably smooth I think they want to just they don't want to go through another like having to make another game from the ground up with the infrastructure of sort of that online space
Yeah.
that Destiny 2 has. So they're just kind of like, no, you know what? We're just sticking with Destiny 2. We're gonna do it like how these other like I guess MMO games do, even though Destiny isn't really considered like an MMO, but it's close. But now they're part of the part of PlayStation, which is it's a very weird cycle they've gone through, and it does seem like from the comments of the various Bungie devs that have come out and spoken about this, that they're not gonna nothing's gonna really change. It's more of like we're using them as a foundation for to help fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that's good for them. Like, I always like Bungie, and I always want to see more from Bungie. But their track record recently has not been. It's just not been good. It's been okay.
I mean, yeah, Destiny 1 and 2 have had rocky, moments. But I mean, the fact that it's still fairly popular and has an audience, it works.
So I guess from there we can just talk about like what could this mean for gaming in general? Because like there's so much buying of companies. Like Microsoft started off with small companies, Ninja Theory, Double Fine, and now it's Bethesda, and now it's potentially because like they're going the guys who checked if it was okay for Disney to buy Fox is checking on them to see if this is like a monopoly or not. So, and now Sony has said out here buying Bungie, says, and the president of the company is saying, "Don't worry, there's more to come." That kind of tells me like, oh, is this a generation of buying, or at least investing into different companies?
It definitely seems like that's sort of the we're reaching a status of how various film and TV productions and stuff have been bought out. Disney buying Star Wars and Marvel, various acquisitions like I think the AT&T Time Warner deal, which was a big factor into the stuff that's been going on in Warner Brothers because Warner Brothers is owned by Time Warner.
Yeah,
and that was a huge merger thing. It's a lot of crazy acquisitions and stuff. I will say that the line from what is it, Sony president saying that that they're gonna be buying up more stuff. That's definitely, I don't know how to feel about that because it definitely seems like, I mean, because honestly, Microsoft buying out all these game companies and stuff. I feel like it feels like it's sort of a direct consequence of what transpired after this last console generation, where Sony had the PS4 was the big hit. Xbox One just having to like sort of play catch up and not having a whole ton of exclusives that that didn't bring enough people into the Xbox ecosystem. I feel like a lot of what Xbox has been doing, and especially Microsoft has been doing, has been bolstering up the Xbox brand and trying to do a lot with it. Because, buying out Bethesda and now Activision Blizzard pretty much means that a lot of these sort of IPs are coming to Xbox, exclusively Xbox. I mean, we know that one of the biggest Xbox games is going to be Starfield, right? Which is like Bethesda's next big RPG open world game. Yeah. Right. And like I mean, like you would, at the time you were thinking that's gonna be on everything, and now it's gonna be on Xbox, and it's like, okay, then does Sony have anything to respond to that? Like sort of a sci-fi open world action game where you probably go into different planets. I don't think Sony has like anything in that category, unless if you want to add Bungie to that, but that's not really that open world.
Those two are two different things.
Yeah, those are two different things. But yeah, it's definitely telling that.
Okay, so let me ask you this: we were okay with the way Microsoft was doing it, because I don't think anyone really batted an eye that much for Bethesda. Because, like, let's face it, they kind of needed to be bought out.
At the very least, to stop them from making their own E3 press conferences every year and not having a whole lot, except for, hey, that's a Doom. Hey, that's a Fallout 76. Wait, did that turn out bad? Oh, no.
Well, let's double down on that game.
Yeah.
Oh, look, The Evil Within. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because, like, I think the thing about with Microsoft buying Bethesda, it was like, it felt more beneficial. It benefited.
It benefited both parties.
Yes.
So that way, Bethesda can still do whatever they like
Mm-hmm.
and have like the money to back it up. And Xbox essentially and Microsoft have a whole slew of games that they can call their own, and a quick and easy way of like getting a lot of exclusives, especially for Game Pass and stuff.
Which is probably where they're getting most of their money now.
Yeah, because it is probably a pretty good service, you know.
And I think why most of us were not as upset with the Blizzard Activision buyout, it's because, let's face it, we were all expecting someone to do that.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of that, but also knowing that Microsoft has the ability to change the various toxic culture that has recently come out about Activision Blizzard, is like, that's a good thing. Like, because it was very clear that it didn't seem like any of the corporate higher ups of Activision Blizzard were willing to actually like go ahead and actually like
They were afraid to man the fuck up.
Yeah, they didn't feel like, changing anything about their company culture and stuff, because they're like, hey, we still make billions of dollars off of Candy Crush and Call of Duty. It doesn't matter to us what goes on with our game developers, all right? Even if it's a bunch of crazy frat boy sexist shit going down. It's like, hey, at least we make money. It doesn't matter to us here at the top of the corporate ladder. But now, because it's such a big PR thing, and even Bobby Kotick wanted to buy major gaming publishers like Kotaku and Polygon, right?
Well, I think it was a PC Gamer.
PC Gamer, okay. To try to, like, I guess somehow like control the narrative.
Dude, that was not. No, you made it worse for yourself. You're digging your own grave at that point.
Yeah, the fact that, like, yeah, that's just like, that's almost like if, like, that seems a little bit propagandist, like if a government controlled the state news and stuff, that's pretty bad. So
let's not do that.
If a big gaming publisher bought out big like gaming news sites and to try to spin the narrative, that would be that's bad.
Like it didn't even say that like people didn't even comment on that like from Activision Blizzard, because one, it might have been not true, but two, if it was true, you're just sinking your own. Listen, that iceberg hit you hard, but your dumbass steering is what caused it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's sort of the thing. I mean, granted, it's still a pretty huge buyout at the end of the day, because what is it like? It's like the Activision Blizzard buyout. It's like one of the biggest.
It's the third biggest buyout of companies. The first one being the.
Yeah, no, like the AT&T Time Warner buyout. Yeah, I mean that's huge, because those are just two big, large like corporations that have their money in like everything, internet providers, entertainment, all that stuff coming together. That I mean, I understand that being like such a huge like buyout combination or whatever. I think the main issue is that I guess the main thing about the Activision Blizzard thing is like it's gonna be harder for that to like I feel like it's gonna be hard to like sell Call of Duty as an exclusive Xbox game.
Yeah, no, there's some games that me and Daniel talked about this. There are some games that need to be multi-plat. Call of Duty being one of them. Like that game has established itself as being as a multi-platform game. It's kind of like what's made it have so much money. You kind of need that.
Yeah.
Same thing with some of the Blizzard stuff. Like, can you imagine Blizzard just being Xbox PC only?
I can imagine like some of their, I mean, like StarCraft's probably easy to do that.
Yeah.
But Overwatch, I mean, it's a competitive game. You need that big competitive aspect, especially with Overwatch 2 coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I know most competitive people are playing on PC anyway, but I mean, I'm pretty sure there was a console circuit for that game at a certain point. Mm-hmm. During its run, of the Overwatch League. So, like at the end of the day, like that you're still getting money from like the microtransactions of the loot boxes of that game as well. So, yeah, you want that money coming in. So it would be hard for some stuff. But other things like say a new Spyro game or a new Crash game, that could definitely move its way to be exclusives for the Xbox and like I guess PC as well, which I mean that would be that's pretty freaking crazy to see Crash and Spyro, originally PlayStation mascots of their era, now being owned by Activision and being whored out. Like,
I would have phrased it like that, but sure.
Well, I mean, the Spyro franchise became Skylanders for a while,
Yeah.
Remember, it was Spyro and like the Skylanders, and then it just became Skylanders.
Yeah.
Spyro was just shot in the back of the head and left to die, but then he came back
like Old Yeller.
Yeah, but then he came back, was like, I lived, bitch, with the remakes of the games, the old games.
And then
and now
take it out again.
Well, I mean, no, now he's he's got a new owner. And
new daddy.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't phrase it like that. And now we don't know what they're gonna do with him. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a it's super crazy with that, and at least with this Sony buying Bungie thing, it's definitely weird because first of all, I guess the price $3 billion. That's kind of crazy for Bungie, especially considering at the moment, Disney's the only thing we're working on. Right? Like, I'm pretty sure Disney bought Marvel for like $4 billion.
Yeah.
And that wasn't just because of the movie division. It was for like all of the Marvel brand, right? Like the comics and various other stuff that Marvel is doing. So yeah, it's super weird that like Sony was willing to buy Bungie for that amount of money, and I guess part of it is just like Bungie is saying they want like security and like funding probably for other things. So I know they have said that they wanted to do other things with Destiny, like maybe a TV show, maybe like comics and various other forms of media to expand the Destiny lore, and that would be neat to see. And partnering with Sony would definitely give you that money, especially if it's $3 billion. Yeah, you definitely could do that. But yeah, like it does seem like there's gonna be some consequences that because I think at the time the thing was that I think most people were like, is Sony willing to buy out like other game studios to like compete with Xbox? Because it didn't seem like at the time when Xbox made the Bethesda deal that it would affect Sony that much. Right? Like, it didn't seem like it very much seemed like Sony and PlayStation didn't really care. And now with this Activision deal being so as big as it is, maybe that was sort of the moment where like Sony top heads were like, okay,
now we gotta do something.
Yeah, because I feel like all right, now we gotta buy something out because they're making us look like a bunch of chumps. They're spending like all this money on these game studios, including Call of Duty, was like the biggest thing out there, we gotta do something. Let's buy something else that was part of Activision. Destiny guys, let's get them.
And that's how they got Destiny. But no, I mean, I don't think it's as terrible as what it could imply, as many people have seem to be wondering. But since they already confirmed, like, no, it's not gonna be that bad, guys. But the question is, again, I feel that what does this mean for most of gaming? Who else is in the buyout? Who else could Microsoft and or Sony buy out? And a lot of people have been saying, what if Sony buys Capcom? God, please, no.
I mean, it seems like it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because, quite frankly, Capcom and PlayStation have always had a bit of a buddy-buddy relationship. I mean, heck, Street Fighter V came out the way it did, partially because Sony funded the money to make Street Fighter V. Like, Street Fighter for quite a Street Fighter 4 was multi-plat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but with Street Fighter V and like Sony wanting to make Capcom wanted to make Street Fighter V, they needed like more money, and instead of just waiting to get the money, Sony came up and was like, "Hey, listen, we'll give you the money for Street Fighter V, but you got to make it PlayStation exclusive. And sure, you can put it on PC, but console wise, it's PlayStation." And Capcom was like, "Sure, we'll do it. Just give me the money. Give me the money now.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the money now, a lot, please.
Show me the money."
Yeah, and that's how that turned out. I mean, and obviously Street Fighter V at launch was very hit and miss, and nowadays it's better. But
wasn't it because like it catered more to the competitive audience?
A little bit, yeah. There were, yeah. It definitely felt a bit rushed because they wanted to like take advantage of like getting Street Fighter V ready for the next Capcom Cup.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, I mean, also like there's also other things that you can clearly see Capcom and PlayStation having relationships. I know there was like a exclusive content for Capcom games on PlayStation for some things, like an exclusive. What was it? There's an exclusive costume in Marvel Infinite for Captain Marvel, right? On PlayStation.
Was there? I don't remember.
I think there was. I'm pretty sure there was.
Looking this up.
And obviously you have I think, what is it? Resident Evil 7 having a VR mode for PlayStation VR. Like the idea of PlayStation buying out Capcom is understandable. It makes sense. I'm just sort of wondering, okay, where does that go though? Like, I mean, would Capcom literally make all their games PlayStation exclusive? Because I don't think that's the case. Because I think one of the big ones is Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
And Monster Hunter has always been flopping between PlayStation and I believe Nintendo consoles for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until Monster Hunter World where that became more multi-plat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, it didn't have a Nintendo Switch port, but then they made a Monster Hunter Rise with, I think, the engine for Monster Hunter World, but like scaled down. So Nintendo still gets a Monster
Hunter. Yeah, it was
Hunter.
A costume. It was like her fighter pilot costume.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Which ended up coming to Xbox.
Oh, okay. But yeah, no point. I think the point being is that I can understand them. I can understand the idea of people saying that can happen. I'm sort of like it's 50-50 either way for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can see it happen, but at the same time, I feel like Capcom only really works with Sony to get more money for their games to do, or if it benefits Capcom enough to like stay exclusive with Sony, they'll do it. But if it doesn't, because they do have other pots to stir, I guess they have other games that they feel can work on other systems, and they'll like, nah.
Monster Hunter World was amazing in every other system.
I mean, it worked.
I mean, there's also like rumors of like Square Enix, Konami, which everyone feels like they should just buy Konami.
Yeah, and granted, that's just because no one wants Konami to be having all these IPs like Metal Gear and Silent Hills just rotting away while they make pachinko machines. I understand that, I completely understand that. Especially since I believe the Metal Gear series has always had like a strong presence on PlayStation anyway. So
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm down for all those because I mean, a bit like I think the thing about it is with Sony and like the possible companies they could buy is that most of those seem better off when they're not owned by a single company making exclusive games for that company. You know what I mean?
I think I understand what you mean. Because I mean, Square Enix I think has embraced a lot of multi-plat as of late.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, granted, I mean they made Avengers and they have like the Spider-Man thing exclusive
Mm-hmm.
to Sony, which I mean, yeah, everyone agrees that kind of blows.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's all kinds of
Mm-hmm.
weird. I mean, we still have like exclusive like Final Fantasy VII remake. That's I think I know it's getting its PC port this year. I think, or was it last year? I don't know. It's getting a PC port.
Yeah, I think it was last year.
Yeah, so it's getting a PC port, or it has, which I mean is nice, but Final Fantasy VII remake. I mean, half the reason why it's exclusive to PlayStation is because Final Fantasy VII was a PlayStation game, you know, and I can kind of see like at least if they wanted to do it, if they wanted to buy Square Enix and like I could easily see them bringing Final Fantasy series back to just PlayStation only, but at the same time it's kind of just like, I mean, 15 made a bunch of money like being multi-plat. Like, you know, I think Square Enix sees the benefits of being more multi-plat and just having some exclusives there.
Yeah.
On certain consoles. I mean, that's how I see it, you know? But who knows?
Who knows? What else is there? I mean, like, just I guess like I mean, I don't have anything else to say unless you got something on you to wonder to ask.
I mean, the only thing I can think about is that I mean, yeah, we know this is a big game changing stuff that Sony is now actively saying, "Hey, let's buy some stuff up.
Let's buy everything."
Yeah,
well, not everything.
Well, yeah, and that's my point. Can Sony actually, you know, go head to head with Microsoft in a buying out war? Because realistically, I don't see that happening. Because as big of a brand as PlayStation is, Sony as a whole is not like a huge company. Like they definitely rely. I think I've made this point before.
You said before they rely mostly on their gaming company.
Yeah, they like the Sony company relies on PlayStation to make a lot of money. It's their biggest money making machine. Like their various other departments like technology or like that isn't gaming doesn't do that great. The Sony picture stuff has been hit and miss for a while, and they only really make money because of Spider-Man movies, which they have to share the money with Marvel Studios, so
which is Disney.
Yeah, so you know that's a whole thing. Meanwhile, Microsoft is one of the biggest companies in the world, and honestly, it feels like, you know, they're willing to make all these purchases because they're that big, and they can like forgo billions of dollars to buy these companies.
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier. Game Pass is they've said is their biggest thing right now, and it's really really good, so good. Like, I've played a lot of games through Game Pass, and I am playing a lot more games through Game Pass, and thank God that most of the games that they've announced are like also coming to day one on Game Pass, so I probably don't have to buy them all. I spent $60 on a bunch of games.
Yeah, just spend a monthly subscription, and you can get all these games at any time. You know, it definitely seems like it's more sort of for Xbox and Microsoft. It's more like turning the Xbox ecosystem into a place where you stay and get connected and play the games on the Xbox ecosystem, and you don't have to worry much about getting, you know, going elsewhere.
Yeah,
they want you in that system, and you know, with them, I think Game Pass is, I think, the strongest way of doing that. And the way to make Game Pass stronger is to get a lot of games that people are willing to play. And yeah, with Sony, I mean, I think they want to make their own Game Pass system as well. I mean, like I think I've heard rumors of them trying to revamp the PlayStation Now thing into a way similar to Game Pass. But yeah, it seems to me anyway that this all is going to lead to a head. And Sony doesn't seem. I think Sony will buy out maybe one or two more like big companies. Like, because I don't see them trying to buy out EA. I think EA is too big. I mean, you could say that about Activision Blizzard, but I think EA's like, with their chunk of like sports gaming, I don't think that's gonna work out for them. But probably some other like smaller studios on the level of Bungie, I could see them buying.
Yeah.
But I don't think Sony's gonna be willing to do what it takes to spend a crap ton of money to get huge companies to
well, they hear you now, and then they're gonna be like, "Fuck you, Joe. We're gonna buy Square Enix and Capcom
and Bandai Namco." They aren't gonna do that.
Then Bandai Namco is too big to buy.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see where that goes. I don't know. There's definitely consequences of like, are we just gonna get to the point where there's only like 3 companies that own like most like 80% of all the gaming companies? Like, I think that's sort of like what people are scared about. I mean, it can. I mean, it might happen, but I think at the same time, the difference between, say, Disney buying out 20th Century Fox and essentially there being like 5 major movie companies that produce movies like in the U.S. and comparing it to the gaming industry is that indie games still have a large presence and continue to have a large presence in the gaming sphere more than, say, indie films. Because yeah, you'll get like an indie film that like gets an award at the Oscars or whatever, but like indie games, you can see like the impact they make almost immediately. I mean, Five Nights at Freddy's, that was an indie game, and it's now its own media franchise, has books and like all that stuff.
Still trying to make a movie.
Yeah, freaking Shovel Knight, like that was an indie game that was kickstarted and it's super successful, and the Yacht Games company still is making stuff. Cuphead, I mean, I know Xbox definitely helped with funding it, but it's getting its Netflix show
In a week or two.
Yeah, so that's indie games have a presence, and it's easier to get indie games off, like have them like branch out and make them big compared to, say, like an indie film. And it's gonna be, I think, a lot harder for gaming to get consolidated the way filming has.
And I think that's a good place to end it. Just like whether or not Sonic is able to do all this stuff. Hopefully, we'll see. We will talk more about it. But yeah, that's a good place to end it. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed what you heard, follow us on all social medias: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at the Geek Centurions. We are most active on Instagram, where we have a link to all the podcasts that we're officially part of, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, and all that like. And if you enjoy the voice, there is a link to the YouTube, so where you can put a face to the voice. And when you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. And yes, we do have a Patreon for all those who want to support us in a different way. Thank you so much. It's been me, your boy, La.
It's been me, Joe.
You guys have a good one. Peace.